Being lazy is almost seen as a failure these days. From a societal perspective, laziness seems to be one of the last traits we are not allowed to have. Everywhere we hear the same message: work harder, wake up earlier, use every minute, optimize your body, your mind, your life. And whenever you do nothing for a moment, that uncomfortable feeling immediately appears, the feeling that you should be doing something meaningful, something productive. But what if this way of thinking is actually the problem? What if we live in a world that has become so obsessed with productivity that we have forgotten why we want to be productive in the first place? What if laziness is not a negative trait, but rather a strength? Perhaps it is a skill we have forgotten how to use. We live in a time where being busy has become a status symbol. In the past, people displayed their wealth through luxury goods. Today, many people display their worth through stress and achievement. When someone asks how we are doing, we often do not answer with good, but with busy. We wear our overload like a badge of honor. Even our free time has become scheduled. Hobbies turn into side projects, interests become business ideas, relaxation becomes self-optimization. A walk is no longer enough, you have to count your steps. Reading a book is no longer enough, it has to provide knowledge. A hobby is no longer enough, it should also generate income. Every moment seems to require a purpose, and this is where a dangerous misconception begins. Because if every moment has to be productive, there's no room left for the things that makes us human: creativity, relaxation and recovery. The question is, what is laziness really? Is someone lazy because they sit on a park bench and think? Is someone lazy because they spend an afternoon daydreaming while looking out the window? Is someone lazy because they consciously decide to do nothing? Or do we only call people lazy when they refuse to keep up with the pace of society? Perhaps laziness is not the opposite of work. Perhaps it is the opposite of meaningless busyness. Because if we are honest, many people spend a large part of the day not on important tasks, but on activities that merely create the appearance of productivity. Answering emails, checking notifications, switching between apps, posting pictures on social media that make them look busy. Sometimes the supposedly lazy person is more productive than the person who spends the entire day occupied. Laziness has advantages as well. In this video I share some examples of how active laziness can produce productive benefits. The first benefit is creativity. Many of our best ideas do not emerge during focused work. They emerge in the shower, while taking a walk, or while daydreaming. In moments when our minds finally have the opportunity to think freely. When we fill every free minute with information, tasks and distractions, we lose the time and space needed for clear thinking. The second benefit is increased energy. The modern world often treats exhaustion as a personal weakness, but fatigue is not a flaw, it is a signal. Anyone who is constantly working, constantly available, and constantly expected to perform is at a risk to experiencing burnout. Not because they are weak, but because no one is designed to live at full capacity all the time. The South Korean philosopher Byung-Chul Han described in his book The Burnout Society how modern society's constant pressure to optimize and perform can lead to emotional exhaustion and mental health issues such as depression and burnout. Conscious laziness therefore sometimes means simply listening to your body. The third benefit is efficiency. At first this sounds contradictory. Many innovations were created because people were too unwilling to do things the complicated way. Sometimes laziness is nothing more than the search for an easier path. The desire to avoid unnecessary work has created machines, simplified processes, and solved countless problems. Lazy people often find the simplest solution. A famous example is Isaac Newton. Not because Isaac Newton was lazy per se, but because the story goes that he was sitting beneath a tree in his garden when an apple suddenly fell on his head. That moment changed the course of physics. The event led him to ask a simple question: why do things always fall downward? His insight was that there must be a universal force of attraction between masses, pulling everything toward the earth. Newton consciously allowed himself a moment of rest beneath a tree. Whether the story is entirely true or not, it illustrates how a seemingly idle moment can completely change our understanding of the world. Had Newton not taken the time to relax in his garden, he might never have reached that insight. The fourth benefit is freedom. Anyone who tries to optimize every minute of life becomes dependent on an endless pursuit of more performance, more success, more progress. But what for? A person who sometimes does nothing remembers that their worth does not depend entirely on productivity. That simply existing can already be enough. Of course, this does not mean that every form of laziness is good. There is a difference between conscious rest and irresponsibility. If we ignore problems, procrastinate endlessly, or sabotage our own goals, laziness does not help us. But intentional laziness, born not from indifference but from awareness, can provide significant benefits, not only for productivity and creativity, but also for recovery and mental health. Laziness is a skill that can be consciously used to allow yourself a moment that does not need to be used. The ability to rest without feeling guilty, the ability to resist the constant pressure to become more and more. Perhaps that is the real lesson. Perhaps we do not need to learn how to become even more productive. Maybe we need to learn that life is more than an endless list of tasks, that not every moment needs a purpose, that breaks are not a waste of time, that boredom is not a problem, and that laziness in its best form is not a weakness, but a reminder that we are human. The most important insight is therefore not that we should work less, but that we should decide for ourselves when work is meaningful and when it is time to simply live. Because in the end, nobody will remember how many emails you answered or how efficiently your calendar was organized. But you will remember how often you truly lived, how often you were able to enjoy a moment, how often you allowed yourself to simply be. Perhaps we need to be less afraid of being unproductive. In a society obsessed with performance, true laziness may simply mean reclaiming the freedom to exist. We often call people lazy when they refuse to adapt to society's pace. But those people take the time to do things in their own way and their own speed. We have turned work into an identity. Those who do nothing often feel guilty. In a world that constantly demands more from us, laziness may become a form of resistance. Being lazy does not mean being passive or do nothing. Sometimes action is necessary and meaningful. Yet, very often, excessive action produces the exact opposite of what we intend. How often do we try to control things that are beyond our control? Many problems resolve themselves when we are patient and make space for the natural course of life. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is nothing at all, at least for just a moment.